Whenever you're playing over dominant chords, it can be hard to choose what to play because there's simply so many options out there. But here's a simple concept that I use for a cool altered sound. Hey there kids, and welcome to this week's installment of Weekend Wankshop. Here's your best buddy in the world, Uncle Ben. Dominant chords are featured in pretty much every genre of music and are really fun to play over because there's simply so many options of what you can use against them. Ask a rock player what he'd play over a dominant chord, he'd probably tell you the Mixolydian scale. And then if you ask a jazz guy what he would probably play the altered scale or the whole tone scale over it. Ask a country or gypsy jazz player and they'd tell you they'd play something arpeggio based around the chord. There's just a whole lot that you can do with them. Today I'm going to show you a trick that I've heard jazz and jazz fusion guitar players like Jeff Beck, Jimmy Herring, John McLaughlin, and my good buddy Emil Wersler use to great effect over dominant chords. It'll give you a cool outside sound, and it's a pretty easy concept to apply to lots of other types of licks too. We'll go over the theory and the technique and all that jazz involved with it as well. Before we get into it, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. And of course, don't forget to get the tab off of my Instagram page at Ben Eller Guitars, and then upload a video of yourself playing it with the hashtag Weekend Wankshop. First, we're going to talk about the basic premise behind the lick, then I'll show you how to play it, then we're going to talk theory about it, and then I'll show you the picking to use. So basically, this lick is taking place over an A7 chord, which is A, C sharp, E, and G. That's root 3rd, 5th, and flat 7 like every other dominant chord. Over this chord, I'm playing an A major triad, which is A, C sharp, and E, which is right there inside of that dominant sound. And I'm alternating that with an E flat triad, which is E flat, G, and B flat. So this whole lick is going A triad, E flat triad. Here's the shapes I'm using. So the first A triad I'm going to play here is going to start off on the 5th fret low E string with my middle finger. Next, with your first finger, play the 4th fret A, and then with your little finger, play the 7th fret A. So now you have, that's your basic major triad shape. What you're going to do is to move that exact same shape here to E flat. So we're going to play the 6th fret on the A string with our middle finger, the 5th fret D string with our first finger, and then the 8th fret D string with our little finger. So again, it's the same shape. Both the fingerings are 2-1-4 and then 2-1-4. Next what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that same stuff but an octave higher. So the A major triad is going to begin on my 7th fret D string with my middle finger, 6th fret G with my first finger, 9th fret G with my 4th finger. That was our A major triad. And next the E flat triad is going to go like this. It's got to be shaped a little bit differently because of our stupid B string and the way we tune the guitar. Here's how I'm playing it. I'm playing the 8th fret G, this time with my first finger. That's the E flat note. Next what I'm going to do is just roll down with that first finger onto 8th fret B, and then play the 11th fret B. So again, anytime you're playing the triad on these two strings, it ends up shaped different. Stupid guitar. So far we have A, E flat, A, E flat. After that last E flat arpeggio, I'm going to jump up the neck here a little bit. I'm going to start the A triad off on the 12th fret A string. And again, same shape you're going to use. So you're going to go 12A, 11D, 14D. And then we're going to play E flat again, which this time is going to start off on the 13th fret D string, 12th G, 15G. Then we're going to play another A major triad, this time starting from the 14th fret G. Now again, just like what we did with E flat down here, anytime we're playing that triad on these two strings, the shape is a little different. It's got that little first finger roll. So I'm going to play 14th fret G, 14th fret B, 17th fret B, and one last E flat triad here. I'm going to play the 16 on the B, 15 E, and then for this I'm going to play 18 on the E before I resolve a half step below that onto the 17th fret E string, which is our root note of A. I'll play it again slow here and call out the triads. We have A, E flat, A, flat, A, E flat, A, E flat, resolving on A. So now let's ask the next big question. Why am I playing an E flat triad over an A7, and why does it make me feel so damn magical? So the intervals that make up the common dominant chord are root, third, fifth, and flat seventh. That gives you kind of that classic dominant chord kind of tonality. A lot of players, especially jazz players, like to mess around with what we call altered dominant chords. Sometimes you see these written down as alt. You might just see like A7 alt written down. What that means is it's the dominant chord, again the root, third, fifth, and flat seventh, plus any or all of the following: a flat 9, a sharp 9, a flat 5, or a sharp 5. Those are the 4 altered notes. Those alterations, like we call them, have an enormous amount of tension in them because they're really rubbing all up against some of the core notes that are in that dominant chord. Makes it sound really, really tense and kind of begs for resolution, which is typically what happens after a dominant chord. After A7, you typically see D major or something like that, and it kind of resolves itself. But over that dominant chord, if you make that thing sound tense as all hell, it's really gratifying whenever it does finally resolve after that. So again, these altered notes are just used to build tension. They ain't there to sound pretty, that's for sure. Here's what all those alterations sound like so you can get an idea of how grody they are. Computer, play me an A7 chord. Here's the flat 9. Here's the sharp 9. Flat 5. Sharp 5. Spicy. So playing this A major triad against an A7 chord makes sense. All these notes are in this chord. That's a very appropriate, kind of obvious sound. But when you look at the E flat triad, those notes. Now, I want you to keep this in mind, and this is something I think every guitar player really needs to get in the habit of asking themselves. You gotta ask, what do these notes mean to the chord they're being played against? You always got to look at what you're playing against and how what you're playing harmonically relates to it. So if we're thinking about this in terms of, being played against an A, right? E flat is our flat and fifth sound. That's one of those altered sounds we were talking about. So against A, that is a really tense sound. The next note in the E flat triad is a G. Well, hell, that's just in a dominant chord anyway. That's the flat 7 against A, so you're back to playing a chord note here. And then this note, the B flat note that's in the E flat triad, right? Well, again, to A, that is a flat 9. Okay, so I know as you're playing this, you're kind of feeling like you're playing an A major chord, then an E flat chord, then an A major chord, then an E flat chord. But really, honestly, what you're playing, again, if you think about it in terms of what it's being played against, that's the most important thing. You're playing root, third, fifth. Then you're playing flat 5, flat 7, flat 9. That really altered sound, right? Then we're back to playing root, third, fifth. Then we got flat 5, flat 7, flat 9 again, and so on. So don't just look at it as, whoa, I'm just thunking down this E flat because it's out of key and that'll sound out or whatever. You're playing specific little alterations. You're playing that flat 5, you're playing that flat 9 and all that jazz. And it's basically making this dominant chord sound like it has some of those grody flat 5 notes and that flat 9 in there. You're kind of extending the harmony out by playing these notes on top of it that aren't even there. You can play that same concept any number of ways and get all kinds of other cool sounds out of it. Like if you played E flat, A, E flat, A, E flat, A. Really, really tense sounds. I love that stuff. So now that the mind is strong, let us strengthen the body. I'm using a specific picking pattern to make this whole thing flow a lot easier for me, and it's really simple. I'm playing downstroke, downstroke, upstroke. That's it. Just repeat that on all of these arpeggios. Down, down, up, 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 and so on. I'm playing this with a downward pick slant because that makes going double downstrokes much easier than playing with the pick flat, or God forbid playing with an upward slant where that's just not really possible. So yeah, double down and an up. That's all you gotta do. So there you go, guys, a cool new lick and hopefully some insight into how to make those dominant chords sound a little bit more out and expensive. There's a Jeff Beck or a Mahavishnu Orchestra song that uses almost this exact same lick, and I can't remember which one it is. It's driving me crazy. I want to say that it's on Birds of Fire by Mahavishnu Orchestra, but I cannot remember. I remember it's got acoustic guitar, and I want to say either a piano or like a violin doubling it. Driving me nuts. If you know what it is, comment and let me know. Try taking those concepts where we talked about using the flat 9, sharp 9, flat 5, and sharp 5 against any dominant chord to come up with some really cool, strange, outside sounds of your own. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, do me a big favor and go like my new Facebook fan page over on facebook.com/Uncle Ben Eller. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram @BenEllerGuitars. And if you'd like to book some one-on-one Skype lessons with me, drop me a line, benellerguitars@gmail.com. Thank you guys, and stay tuned for another cool lick next week. Cheers.